Hey, boys and girls. Today I'm going to be reviewing Stefan Molyneux talking about climate change scientists and an analogy he drew between them and stockbrokers that I disagree with. I usually really like Stefan, but his views on climate change are a bit, controversial, shall we say. So let's jump right into it.
Hi everybody, Stefan Molyneux from Freedom Main Radio. Hope you're doing well. So a question from a listener, Free Atheist, writes in and says, I know this has nothing to do with the video, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on climate change. I heard in one of your videos you said that not all scientists agree. I would suspect that not all scientists would agree when some of them are being bribed hundreds of thousands of dollars to say it's not real or that humans aren't causing it. Do you think the reason you're against it doesn't have to do with evidence, but the fact that the left supports it and you're against the left?
I think that's a pretty fair question, asking if it's possible that climate scientists could possibly be bribed by oil companies, say, to downplay the effects of climate change.
So I understand the question. I would respond first and foremost by saying that there's lots that the left advocate that I also support.
I'm confused about that point because nothing in Stefan's videos has ever suggested to me that he was anti-left. So I'm just going to skip over the beginning of this video where he explains how he's not actually anti-left. I don't think he is.
I'll tell you the thoughts that I have, or one particular analogy that I find very helpful with regards to climate change. And hopefully this will help make sense of my position, which obviously I think is a reasonable position. Otherwise I'd change it. So when it comes to climate change, the important thing, as I've said in many videos, is not to create arbitrary categories. I do not view any group of human beings as above corruption.
Nor do I think that anyone else does either.
And this doesn't mean that climate scientists are corrupt. Please understand, I'm not sort of jumping to that conclusion. Let me just sort of give you an analogy that tells you at least where I'm coming from and the reasons why.
This analogy is about to tell you exactly why he does think climate scientists are corrupt.
Priests can be corrupted.
That was incredible. He even goes on right here to say that scientists are the new priests.
They are the new priests. This is the way that priests used to be viewed, and then that sort of fell by the wayside for a lot of people. And now we have scientism as sort of like the new religion, and it has pretty similar relationship to priests with the government in that the priests justified the government by saying the king was appointed by God, and to disobey the king was to disobey God, and you couldn't really break that. And now we have scientists who support the power of the state. It's very, very similar.
This seems like a stunning claim to me, that scientists are the new priest order, as though scientists have any vested interest in propping up governments. Scientists are fairly well separated and insulated from government meddling, I would say, compared with priests of history.
In terms of its relationship to power. This doesn't mean that I'm anti-science. I'm incredibly pro-science. I think the scientific revolution and the scientific methodology is one of the greatest gifts.
There's the beginning of our real disagreement. The scientific methodology is one of the greatest gifts. It's not about the scientists themselves. An individual scientist can lie, but is the methodology capable of lying?
The science, reason, science, philosophy, and the free market are the great gifts that intellectuals have given to the world, but we would not want to mistake government science for voluntary science.
There's a distinction here that's interesting because he never comes back to it to explain the difference between government science and voluntary science. I don't think that there is a difference. The government doesn't perform science. There are very few scientists involved with government at all in any capacity.
So I want you to picture, if you will, it's very kind, I want you to picture a group of stockbrokers. And stockbrokers create something called the economy rate. I mean, it's just a made-up measure, right? It's an economy rate. And they make the case that if the economy rate goes up 1 or 2%, they should be paid massive amounts of money from the public purse.
massive amounts from the public purse. What scientists is he imagining are paid massive amounts from the public purse? We'll come back to this in a minute.
Right. So that's their goal. And we'll just say ER for the economy rate. So if the economy rate goes up maybe 1 or 2%, then they can make literally hundreds of billions of dollars in bonuses and profits.
And there it is. Hundreds of billions of dollars. The average climate scientist in the United States is paid around $70,000 a year. Now, that's not a bad salary, but that's not even close to a stockbroker or virtually anyone else involved with lobbying the U.S. government. If the U.S. government was really invested, if oil companies were really invested in bribing climate scientists to break their lifelong goal of discovering truth. I mean, that's what scientists are. Scientists are people who went to school in order to discover the truth about the world. And you're telling me that for a $70,000 a year salary, these scientists will go against the very fundamentals of science and lie in order to what? Create a false narrative of climate change? How does that even make sense? If anything, climate scientists would be bribed in order to downplay the negatives of climate change, right? Because oil companies would want to drill more or expand their pipelines or whatever it is. It seems that the bribery would be going in the opposite direction, doesn't it? And this is where it starts to not make any sense to me.
Now, the stockbrokers are the ones who calculate this economy rate, this ER. Now, they can also adjust the ER as they want. So if the ER doesn't match the numbers that they want, then they can apply a bunch of variables to it and again massage it and get it to go the direction that they want.
So right here, he is not insinuating, he's declaring flat out that scientists are massaging the results of their measurements in order to invent climate change. Ask yourself, who would be the people who would be benefiting from bribing scientists to do such a thing? The scientists themselves aren't gaining that much, $70,000 a year salary. This is your incentive to massage. And besides that, it would take an entire world of scientists. 97% of scientists agree that climate change is real and a human caused. So you'd have to get virtually every scientist in the world to agree to do the same massaging of the measurements for $70,000 a year on average. This seems very, very unlikely.
So first of all, these stockbrokers make predictions. And first they say, well, the ER is going to go down, and it's going to be really bad. And but if you give us money, we'll find a way to make the ER go back up. And everyone freaks out and panics, and then the ER doesn't go down. And then they say, oh, wait, actually, we've adjusted our variables. The ER is, in fact, going to go up and keep going up. But if you give us lots of government money, then we will stop this disaster from happening. And then the ER doesn't go up. And then they say, well, you know what? The ER is going to go either up or down or both. And that way we should have a huge amount of money. So they convince everyone of all of this. And the government, through the taxpayers through the government, start pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into the pockets of these stockbrokers.
And here's the problem, right? He's suggesting that scientists somewhere are saying, if you give us money, we will somehow get the climate to start getting cooler again. That would be the analogy here, right? If you give us money, we will change the outcome of the measurements. But that's not what scientists are saying at all. They're not saying give us money and we'll reduce the temperature of the world. They're saying, no, we are telling you the world is getting warmer. You should change your laws. You should legislate you should pass the Paris Agreement. You should do all those kinds of things in order to make sure that we don't drive the planet off the edge of a cliff. It's completely it's completely not a correct analogy because these stockbrokers in his analogy are motivated by money. Scientists aren't particularly motivated by money, and they're not saying, give us money and we'll change the outcome of the world. They're saying, this is what's happening. You need to change the outcome of the world. The scientists are not, in my estimation, benefiting in any particularly major way. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that, but the analogy falls apart, and this continues on for another 15 minutes in this same vein. But basically, I think right at the beginning, if you just shut down this logical fallacy, the whole rest of the analogy falls apart. So that's it for me today. Thanks. Bye.